I saw Rogue One on Sunday, December 18th. I've been meaning to do a video on it, but I wanted to get everything together. I wanted to have my notes ready. I wanted to just sort of let it sink in. I know I should have struck when the iron was hotter than it is, because there are probably millions of people talking about Rogue One now, and countless videos like this on YouTube. But this is basically for anybody that wants my opinion. So I thought Rogue One was good, very good. I I feel like it's sort of, since it is technically a prequel, as my brother put it, it's a prequel to a sequel, which technically is true, and I feel like it's the prequel people wanted. Because my personal gripes with the prequels is that they're extremely slow and dull. Rogue One never really has any slow points. There definitely are slower points than other points, but there's never any parts where you feel like are just useless. Whereas in the prequels, there are tons of them, especially in Episode 2. It was fast, it was great. I've seen Gareth Edwards' other films like Godzilla, and I feel like he's a perfect choice because he definitely can handle doing a huge blockbuster. And yeah, I feel like he was a great choice. I feel like the writing was very good. A lot of people complain that, especially the first hour, was very choppy. I don't really blame that on the writing. I blame that more on the reshoots and the editing and a few mistakes there. I wasn't particularly angry. Like Red Letter Media, they were just basically like, "What the fuck is going on?" During the first hour. I wasn't really like that. I feel like there just should have been more explanation. And of course, there are going to be books and comic books about it, which I don't really care. Okay, what's important is the movie, and that goes for really anything, especially like superhero movies with comic books or anything like that, like sci-fi movies like Divergent or whatever that need to rely on other sources. No, okay. What's important is the movie. A movie should be able to stand on its own, and honestly, this film definitely does stand on its own. You can watch this and have a great time, but it tries to be a standalone film while relying on the old material. Um, for example, while I do think it was a good idea for them to tone down the fan service, and they definitely did listen to the backlash The Force Awakens got, I personally do like The Force Awakens, but I did roll my eyes a couple of times when I saw it in theaters because there was a lot of fan service, like when they're on the ship and Finn finds the training ball, or them discovering the Millennium Falcon the way they did, or the trash compactor, or the Death Star again. A lot of that stuff. A lot of the gripes everyone's heard 100,000 times. They definitely toned that down, but there was still a couple of times where it was just obvious fan service. Like, for example, this does contain spoilers, by the way. When they're walking through Jeddah, Jen and the other guy, I'll get to the characters more later, but they bump into the guy from A New Hope, the "You Just Watch Yourself" guy, with the walrus guy that Obi-Wan cuts the arm off. They bump into them, and I was just thinking, like, alright, I get it. And there was a point where 3PO and R2-D2 made this very small cameo, which looked like it was definitely added in post-production, since it was more than likely they were CG. I don't think they put Anthony Daniels in a C-3PO suit. It was definitely him talking, but it did look a bit polished, and maybe they just reused it from The Force Awakens or whatever. The point is, I feel like it was a very last-minute rendition or addition to the film. The casting was original and different, although I'd say it was the opposite of whitewashing. Most of the good guys are clearly supposed to be diverse, whether it's Forrest Whitaker as the black guy, or there's Hispanics, or Jen as the female lead again, or Donnie Yen. And most of the white guys in the movie are the bad guys. Now, that's nothing to really make a fuss about. It's just something I noticed, and I definitely find funny. Of course, it's not all just completely whitewashed. There are a few white men who are the protagonists, but it doesn't really matter. It mostly relies on the performances. And I'd say Jen, as she's definitely the main character, especially in the first scene, she is built up to be the main character. She is not a good character. I'm just saying it right now. She's very flat. She's unoriginal. She's basically a combination of the rebellious and rogue parts of Han Solo, the optimism, spirit, and misery of Luke Skywalker, and honestly a little bit of little Anakin, especially in the first 15 minutes. And all of that, all those good parts, even the good parts of little Anakin, were definitely toned down. I just found her to be a very unoriginal and just pretty much mediocre character. I mean, she definitely serves a great part of the story, and she definitely did a good job with the material. But it's just she wasn't a great character. She was built up to be the next Rey, and Rey is a much, much better character. I'd say my favorite character out of all of them was by far Donnie Yen's character. I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking on his name. If you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to know about him, basically he is a guardian of the city of Jeddah, and he's basically keeping his past a secret. What he is he's blind, but he has this staff that he beats people up with, and basically it's his substitute for a lightsaber. He is not a Jedi, but he definitely is Force sensitive, and he uses the Force in an extremely unique way. He isn't lifting up stuff with the Force or anything like that. Yeah, out of all the characters, he's by far the most original and best character, in my opinion, of the whole movie. Also, there's K2SO, who apparently was supposed to have originally a British accent, which I thought would have been an awful decision. The reason for that is he's definitely supposed to be the next 3PO, because he's basically 3PO, except a lot more rigid and autistic in a way, because he's just says what's ever on his mind, which is cool, because he's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. But if he had a British accent, he would definitely just come off as a carbon copy of 3PO. And yeah, he was great. That's it pretty much for the characters. The visual effects, the visual effects were very good. The thing about The Force Awakens is they relied heavily on practical effects, which is good. That's what I wanted. That's what everybody wanted. And J.J. Abrams just wanted a nostalgic style, and he wanted a lot of like member berries and like throwbacks and stuff. Gareth Edwards, you can tell from his directing style, he said, yeah, I'll do that, but let me do my own thing too. And he definitely has a much different style than J.J. Abrams, who's the action-adventure director, whereas Gareth Edwards mixes action and adventure with drama. There was a lot of CG points. There isn't really any standout CG points that looked very obvious that it was computer-generated, which a lot of films, especially like Suicide Squad, you could definitely tell when there was CG and it looked pretty dated. And The Adventures of Tarzan, which I also saw, there was a lot of less than stellar CG. There wasn't any CG in it that was bad. Except, of course, and it definitely didn't look bad, but the revival of Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia. Now, it definitely was cool, and it definitely shows like an upgrade in that sort of computer-generated technology of reusing people and their facial structures. But it definitely did look fake, especially when he was standing next to other Imperial officers. Hello Greedo summed it up best. He said it was great, but we definitely aren't there yet. And Rogue One was acting like we were there yet. Princess Leia was fine, even though she was in one shot. Like I said, it takes a little while to get started. The first hour or so, there aren't throwaway scenes, but there are some where they could have chopped it down a little bit or have done them better. I'd say the last 45 minutes were the highlight of the film, especially the last 5 to 10 minutes where there was a scene with Darth Vader walking down this hallway, and all these rebels are trying to shoot him, but he's just cutting them down. And the rebels are frantically trying to open the door, and then one of them just sticks his hand through and tells someone to take the Death Star plans because he knows he's going to die. That was fantastic and probably my favorite part of the film. And Darth Vader, people complained that he wasn't in it enough. There was actually actual news articles, complaining about how he wasn't in it enough. And my reaction is, what did you expect? I mean, he was, I think, in only a few shots collectively of every teaser and trailer and any promotional anything. He was barely in it. So it wasn't like back when Revenge of the Sith came out and he was plastered over everything, even though he was pretty much only in one scene as Darth Vader in the suit. That's pretty much it. If you haven't seen the film already and you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend seeing it. Don't have your expectations be as high as for Episode 7 or Episode 8 or anything like that. It's supposed to be completely different, and it definitely does try to be different, and I think it was definitely a valiant effort, and I think other spin-offs should learn from the few but present mistakes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.